13 goals, 10 assists in 53 appearances. That was enough for Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers to become the 5th most expensive player in football history after Chelsea agreed to pay €138 million for the forward. Now compare that to this. 13 years earlier, Gareth Bale joined Real Madrid for a then record €105 million after producing 26 goals and 10 assists in just 44 games for Tottenham. Bale wasn't just having a good season. According to the data, he was the 7th most effective attacking player across Europe's top 5 leagues. Morgan Rogers, on the other hand, was the 12th most effective forward in the Premier League alone and only the 38th most effective attacking player across Europe's top 5 leagues. So, here's the question. How does the 38th best attacking player in Europe suddenly become the 5th most expensive player in football history? At first glance, it doesn't make any sense, unless we've been thinking about €100 million transfers wrong all along.
Morgan Rogers for £117 million, is he even worth it? Well, who's worth what? The reality is the price, the market is inflated.
Yes, confirmation came at 8 o'clock that not only is Jack Grealish a £100 million player, but also confirmation that he'd signed a 6-year contract.
That the fee is £92.5 million plus £7.5 million in add-ons, so it'll round up to nearly £100 million. Tottenham Hotspur, Newcastle United have reached an agreement for the signing of Sandro Tonali.
For years, a €100 million transfer felt like football's highest seal of approval. It told you this wasn't just a great player, he was one of the very best. That's because, in the modern-day transfer market, what decides whether a fee reaches €100 million is something completely different: club wealth. And the data backs it up. Take a look at this. Over the last 5 seasons, 18 players have been transferred for €85 million or more. 15 of those deals were completed by just 6 clubs: Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, and Tottenham. And this isn't just a coincidence. It's evidence that the selling clubs have adapted to one simple reality. When one of England's richest clubs comes calling, you don't negotiate around the player's footballing level, you negotiate around what the club can afford to lose. And once that happened, the meaning of a €100 million transfer completely changed. In this video, I want to show you the 3 hidden pricing systems that determine every blockbuster signing in the modern-day transfer market. First, the homegrown players. While players like Morgan Rogers, Jack Grealish, and Elliot Anderson cost dramatically more than equally talented players abroad. Then, Premier League rival players. Why signing stars like Alexander Isak, Moses Caicedo, and Sandro Tonali from domestic rivals had their transfer fees pushed into another stratosphere. And finally, foreign league players, where players like Florian Wirtz, Enzo Fernandez, and Josko Guardiol reveal that even overseas bargains aren't really bargains anymore. Because once you understand these 3 pricing systems, you'll realize something most football fans haven't realized yet. €100 million transfers are no longer what they used to be. Following Chelsea's signing of English midfielder Morgan Rogers for a British record €137 million, he became the 22nd footballer in history to command a transfer fee of more than €100 million and the 5th most expensive player ever. But forget about the money for a moment. Instead, look at where these players come from. Of the 22 footballers who cost more than €100 million, 7 of them are from England. France has 4, Brazil, Portugal, and Belgium have 2 each, and the other nations have produced just 1. At first glance, it seems to suggest that England consistently produces the world's most valuable players. But that argument doesn't hold any weight, because England hasn't won a World Cup since 1966, and only one English player in Michael Owen has won the Ballon d'Or in the last 25 years. And when you look across Europe's elite, England hasn't produced 7 times more generational talent than countries like Spain, France, or Brazil. So, what are clubs actually paying for? The answer is very little to do with nationality and almost everything to do with scarcity. After England's humiliating 4-1 defeat to Belgium at the 2010 World Cup, the FA, England's football governing body, introduced what would come to be known as the homegrown player rule. This rule stated that every Premier League club could register a maximum of 25 players in their squad, but at least 8 of those players had to qualify as homegrown talent. Despite the name, they don't have to be English. A homegrown player is simply someone who has spent at least 3 years registered under an English club before turning 21. Famous examples of homegrown players from other countries include Spanish midfielder Cesc Fabregas, Belgium talisman Romelu Lukaku, and French legend Paul Pogba. The idea was simple. Developing players through English academies and giving them opportunities in the Premier League would strengthen, giving the Three Lions a better chance at competing on the world stage. But, as we all know, football rarely works the way it's designed on paper. The Premier League didn't stop attracting the world's best players. In fact, it became even richer. Every summer, clubs like Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Tottenham continued filling their roster with world-class stars from every corner of Europe, which created an unexpected problem. The rule still demanded 8 homegrown players, but the number of homegrown players actually good to start for clubs chasing Premier League titles and Champions League trophies remained incredibly small. That's the real shortage. There is an abundant number of homegrown players in England, but a real shortage in elite homegrown players capable of competing with the very best footballers in the world. Take reigning Premier League champions, Arsenal. Arsenal entered last season with 13 homegrown players, but only 5 of them appeared in at least 20 of their 63 matches last season. In other words, finding a player who qualifies as homegrown isn't difficult, but finding one who's good enough to start for a club trying to win the Champions League and the Premier League in one season is. That's where the transfer market changes completely. And because elite homegrown players are in such short supply, Premier League clubs can charge almost whatever they want. I call it the homegrown player tax, and the numbers back it up. In the 2020-21 season, Aston Villa's Jack Grealish scored 6 goals and registered 10 assists in the Premier League. 1 summer later, Manchester City made him the most expensive player in British football history, paying €117.5 million for his signature. But here's what makes that fee so fascinating. Since that Jack Grealish season, 11 more players have also managed to score at least 6 goals and provide 10 assists in a Premier League campaign. Brighton's Leonardo Trossard actually bettered Grealish's goal involvement, finishing with 8 goals and 10 assists. Yet, when Arsenal signed him, they paid roughly 4 times less than what Manchester City paid for Jack Grealish. The big difference wasn't goal contribution. It wasn't age, it wasn't potential. But it was because Jack Grealish counted as a homegrown player while Trossard didn't. That single label is worth tens of millions of euros in today's transfer market.
Grealish is now a City player. The deal has come together.
Yes, confirmation came at 8 o'clock that not only is Jack Grealish a £100 million player, but also confirmation that he'd signed a 6-year contract.
And I can tell you that Harry Maguire has now signed for Manchester United, what is a world record fee for a defender. We understand the fee is £80 million. All right.
Arsenal have announced the signing of Noni Madueke from Chelsea in a deal worth £52 million. Arsenal will pay Chelsea an initial £48.5 million plus £3.5 million in performance-related add-ons.
But homegrown status is only one way football has inflated transfer fees. The second is something almost every fan misunderstands: rival Premier League transfers. Like most supporters, I always assumed transfers worked as a once-off transaction. A club agrees to pay millions for a player, the money is wired, and the deal is done. But that almost never happens. The number you see in the headline is usually not the amount of money that changes hands that summer. Instead, clubs use an accounting system called amortization. When Sky Sports reported that Liverpool paid €145 million for Alexander Isak, it sounded like Newcastle United received €145 million immediately. But they didn't. Because Isak signed a 6-year contract, Liverpool are forbidden to pay the entire fee up front. Instead, the transfer is spread across the length of his contract. So, instead of Newcastle receiving €145 million overnight, they receive payments over several years. In simple terms, the €145 million transfer spread across 6 years works out to roughly £24 million per year.
Isak is officially a Liverpool player. Alexander Isak is Liverpool's new number 9. They've confirmed it officially now. He has signed in a British record transfer of £125 million, and he has signed a 6-year contract with Liverpool.
But that's only half the story. Liverpool aren't just paying Newcastle United €24 million a year over 6 years to keep Alexander Isak. They're also paying the forward £280,000 per week, which equates to £14.5 million every year in wages. This essentially means Liverpool are legally obligated to pay a rough estimate of €36 million every year for 6 years to keep Alexander Isak at Anfield. But why would any club commit that kind of money to one player? Because in football, paying too much for the right player is often seen as a safer bet than paying for the wrong one. The Premier League is littered with expensive players who looked unstoppable in foreign leagues but failed to replicate that same form in the Premier League. Think Darwin Núñez. In the 2021-22 season, Núñez made 41 appearances for Benfica, scoring 34 goals and providing 4 assists before signing a 6-year contract to become Liverpool's new forward in a deal valued at over €75 million and 25 million in add-ons, which would have Liverpool paying €12.5 million to Benfica and paying Núñez €9.5 million in wages every year. His contract with the Reds was supposed to run until 2028. But he was sold to Al Hilal in August 2025 after only managing to score 23 goals in 95 appearances for Liverpool.
Reminder of that breaking news that Liverpool have reached an agreement with Al Hilal for Darwin Núñez. It's understood that they will pay £46.2 million plus add-ons that could take the deal to £56.6 million.
And the example of foreign players struggling to transition to the physicality of the Premier League isn't limited to Darwin alone. Christopher Nkunku with Chelsea, Antony with Manchester United, Nicolas Pepe with Arsenal. Every failed transfer reinforces one belief across English football. Premier League proven players are worth more than foreign league players, and that's exactly what smaller Premier League clubs exploit. They know the big six aren't just buying a footballer, they're buying certainty as well. Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City and Spurs would rather overpay for a player who's succeeded in England than gamble on a cheaper alternative from Germany, Italy or Portugal. The fee isn't inflated because the player is necessarily better. It's inflated because the selling club knows the buying club is terrified of getting it wrong.
After agreeing a deal of around £85 million for Matheus Fernandes. This is a huge coup for Spurs, who have won the race for the West Ham midfielder ahead of Manchester United. And Michael Bridge joins me on set. What are the details of this then?
Well, quite incredible, Bella. Look, we know for the last few weeks, Spurs pretty much went head-to-head with Manchester United for the transfer of Matheus Fernandes from West Ham United. West Ham United were very insistent. We want £85 million for a player they believe is going to be one of the best midfielders in world football. He's only...
The Premier League has become the richest football league the world has ever seen. According to Deloitte's Money League, 6 Premier League clubs rank among the 10 richest clubs on the planet. After the 2025-26 season, the league generated £6.8 billion in revenue, with £4 billion being distributed amongst the big 6, leaving 14 other Premier League clubs to split £2.8 billion in the leftover revenue amongst themselves. But then, that leaves 14 other Premier League clubs outside the big 6 with one simple question. How do we get a share of the £4 billion split amongst the big 6? And well, that answer's simple. Sell your best players to those clubs. And that's exactly where the market starts falling apart. No club has exploited this better than Brighton, Hove and Albion. Over the last 5 seasons, Brighton have generated almost €500 million by selling players to the big 6. Moses Caicedo, Alexis McAllister, João Pedro, Leonardo Trossard, Ben White, Marc Cucurella, Robert Sanchez, Danny Welbeck. Different players sold to different clubs, but the business model doesn't change. Brighton doesn't just develop talented footballers, they develop Premier League proven footballers. By the time one of their players hits the market, the hard part is already done. They've already proved that they could survive and thrive in the toughest league in the world. And while clubs like Bournemouth, Newcastle United, Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest rely on selling their most developed star players at radical transfer fees, Brighton have honed the art of buying undiscovered talent, having them adapt to the Premier League and selling them to a Premier League giant for a huge profit. And the final pricing system driving transfer fees even higher is foreign league players. Clubs like RB Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund and Benfica have turned player trading into a business model. They scout young players before anyone else, develop them into stars, then wait for Premier League clubs to come knocking with a blank check. It's the same strategy Brighton, Hove and Albion use in England, except it's on a European scale. The moment a player performs well in the Champions League, everything changes. One great season against Europe's biggest clubs is enough to convince Premier League executives they're buying a proven superstar. Suddenly, the price doubles, not because the player has become twice as good, but because the Premier League is paying for the illusion of certainty. And the numbers are staggering. These are the 15 most expensive players signed directly from foreign leagues by the Premier League's big 6, revealing just how much this premium has inflated the transfer market. RB Leipzig appears 4 times on this list, and this hasn't yet accounted for the sale of Ivorian right winger Yohan Douamande, who they have managed to convince Real Madrid to be worth north of 130 million euros after rejecting Liverpool's bid of 105 million euros for the player.
Liverpool, big interest, so much so they bid reportedly 100 million euros for this fella, but he ain't going. He ain't going anywhere at this particular time. Leipzig previously indicated that they would seek nearer 130 million euros. What do you think?
Let's talk about Yohan Douamande. Real Madrid are in pole position to get this signing done from RB Leipzig. At the moment, they've had about €100 million proposal turned down, but at the moment, like I said, they are the team that's in pole position. We know that Liverpool have previously been interested, Man City as well. PSG withdrew from the race on Sunday, citing that the transfer fee is too big. That's not how they do business anymore. The likes of Messi, Neymar, that transfer strategy's gone. So it looks pretty clear with Douamande. He has been training with RB Leipzig today. He's still very much their player, but at the moment, like I said, Real Madrid in pole position.
I think it's fair to say Neymar's 222 million euro move to Paris Saint-Germain may have blown the market wide open, and now elite world-class players would have to be transferred for at least more than 200 million euros.